Hello, everyone. Dave Fernandez here with another episode of What It Takes to Be a Coach. This is episode number 6 of our show here. And today I have a very special guest and friend of mine, Marianne Meeder. How you doing, Marianne?
Hi, Dave. How are you? I'm doing
Very
great.
Good, thank you.
Thank you
Marianne
so much.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Marianne is a mindset coach and author of the Freak series. She's got 3 books: The Dating Freak, Gluten-Free Freak, Insomnia Freak. Marianne, where did you get that freaking idea?
It's funny. I started having a problem sleeping like 2 years ago, and I noticed a trend on podcasts where people were writing books of solving problems. And so I'm like, I've got all kinds of problems. Let me try this. It was just a whim, and I had a problem sleeping. So as I wrote the book about my problem, but also has the very strong voice of a coach, kind of like, okay, what's going on in my life? But I talk, to the outside world as well, like what's going on in your life, and let's take back our life and let's champion our destiny. And when I started with I have the problem, and I always felt in life like, I don't like to talk about my problems. I'd rather help other people. And so the idea of a freak a little bit kind of, that you're embarrassed about it, or, you don't want to talk about it. But then as the series went on, like especially the gluten-free freak, my voice became stronger and stronger that, hey, I'm a stand for the freaking impossible. That means take back your life, champion your destiny. The sky's the limit, right? You have a problem, but, and this is a limitation, but here's the possibility if you overcome the problem and live it at the highest level.
I love
That's
it.
The freak idea.
The freak idea. That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing before you became a coach.
I was a teacher for about 21 years, a special ed teacher, and I worked with children that had learning disabilities and behavior disorders. So I was always motivating kids.
Okay, that's awesome. And so when did you actually feel the call or experience the call to become a coach?
Well, I've dabbled in coaching for years. I took a class in 2007. I actually went to see a coach myself, and I was like a career coach and paid for this stellar session, like, what do you want to be when you grow up, even though I was an adult? And I told her I wanted to be a life coach, and she talked me into becoming certified as a business coach. And I was like, she's like, oh, that's just going to be more marketable. I'm like, okay. And I got the certification in 2007 as a business coach. And some of it was, how do you achieve your goals? And, it's good training. But as time went on, I kept trying to sell myself, and people were calling me a life coach. They're like, because you just show up to the world this way. And I also took an amazing program called Landmark Education. Have you heard of it?
Not really.
Landmark is around the United States, and it's basically transformational thinking and leadership. So I took, self-expression and leadership classes in that. And it doesn't give you a certification, but it changes the way you think. And that's really where I got my most powerful life coaching out of, is just the transformation process, and how do you like live outside the box, and what if there were no box, right?
Right. So how was that transition for you, like mindset wise? Was it like difficult for you to all of a sudden say, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to make a complete career change? And well, it's not complete, you were into teaching, even though it was a specialized teaching, but how was that transition mindset wise?
It's kind of difficult. I think it's hard when you're doing, in 2007 also there was a recession, and I started writing a blog, and I started writing a blog. It's still up there. It's called realeffectivecoaching.com. Mm-hmm. And I wrote articles just to motivate people and help them through. But I never really got into coaching full time. I just kept teaching and doing it on the side. And so I think the transition is difficult, because if you don't go for it 100%, you have a tendency to stay where you were. That's just how it was for me. I'm a teacher. You see yourself, I'm a teacher, and you try to do it a little bit, and it's hard to manage, time-wise.
Well, speaking of that, like, what are some of the challenges that you experienced as a coach, in the business side, and also, as you coach other people?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think a lot of is perception and perspective, because I'm a writer. I do a lot of content writing, and then I'm also a coach. And so sometimes it's people want to hire me for writing coaching, or to help them write a book, or even they'll say it like as an editor, but then they wind up needing coaching. So sometimes it's defining who you are and like finding your niche. I think can be a challenge. And then I wrote a book on love, and people are like, oh, you're a love coach. And I'm like, well, but I've written, I'm really the mindset coach, but yeah, we can talk about, dating and, so I think finding the niche and really honing in on the niche, I think, is a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I always say, because, I call myself a business and life coach, but it's all life, right? Like
Yeah.
when somebody asks me what type of coach you are, well, it's all life. I just specialize on this, but, it's all about bettering your life, whether it's
Yeah.
business relationships or career or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
For you, what's the best thing about being a coach?
The best thing about being a coach is I think I love to motivate people. It's sort of like in my DNA. Like if I was sick on the couch, and I've done it. People, the phone rings and you're like, it just brings me to life. Like, they say if you find your passion, you find your energy. Like you just step into that place where you're fulfilled and you're happy. And like you find your energy. Even in the worst day, I just love to encourage and motivate people. And I love to see the change and the transformation. I love to see the outcome that they don't see as possible. And that it's huge and it's coming for them. And you kind of push them along the way to their success.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. I guess, us coaches, we all have that in common. I've noticed, it's that thing that, whether you're getting paid or not, that's what you would do anyway, right? For anyone,
Exactly.
just, give them a piece of advice or send them a resource or try to help, people in one way or another, So what would you say, if somebody looking to become a coach, how should they go about it? Because there's so many different ideas and thoughts about this. Some say you should get certified. Some other people say just start doing it. Some other people say just go and talk to coaches and get coached, and
Yeah.
How would you advise someone to go about
Well,
this?
I think there's two ways. I think certification is great. I mean, there are all these different programs. You probably have to figure that out yourself, the accreditations. But I know like in the program that I took, it was so many hours of coaching other people and then being evaluated by a coach who was certified. So if you don't want to get certified or don't have the money right now, like I have a friend who has an amazing idea and I'm just trying to encourage her and she's not certified as a coach. So sometimes I see I see it within people. If people have lived their life experience and they have something to tell people, something, they say that your pain becomes your misery becomes your message,
Mm-hmm.
And so like what you've struggled with, your problem that you've solved in your life becomes how you help release other people. So, but I think it's important when you're young and starting off that you get like people to mentor you. At least you could get a coach to mentor you. And, like when I started, I think during my program, I coached my sister, I coached, and then she had to write a little evaluation on me, like just short, how was the, what's a goal you have that you're struggling with? And my sister wrote this, I think I still have a copy of it. She wrote this great, so yeah, you could just start off with either a mentor or an accreditation program, because a mentor is pretty much similar, someone who has some experience and they can, save you all the time and the effort of what they've been through.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I once heard somebody say something like, if you have lived, then you can be a coach, right? It's almost like so your life experiences and stuff. But on the other side, just like you're saying, I think that I'm not an advocate necessarily for accreditation or not. I'm an advocate of, keep developing yourself. Like if you're getting into something, you must learn, to develop the skills. You need to develop the skills in order to do it effectively and continue to learn. So whether that is, through a coaching program or an accreditation, which would be perfectly fine. But in my opinion, it never stops there. It should continue.
For those people, I know how the world is nowadays. Okay, quarantine, lockdown. You can get yourself an online mentor. There's like coaches that, you can watch their videos. You can follow a success coach who's really stellar and just listen to their podcast. That's a form of mentorship if you're just sitting there under their training and their teaching and, online mentoring.
Super powerful, super powerful. Do you think that people should have a certain type of background in order to become a coach?
No, absolutely not. I think it's so interesting because I see people in the world. I heard in St. Louis here where I live, I was on the radio and there was a man who was homeless and was a drug addict and had this horrible life. And then he told his story, how he flipped his life, and now he's a life coach. So, you know what I mean? So who could ever predict someone's outcome? If you think he didn't I don't even know his, and I so wanted to look him up. And I was like, how can I find him? Because his story so inspired me, Like, it's like, okay, my life was broken and I healed my life, and now I can help you heal yours. I think as long as you've gone through the healing yourself. And so it doesn't matter if you were a business person, a finance person. Yeah, there is no background.
That's awesome. Do you think that anyone can be coached?
It's a great question. Well, what I learned in my coaching program is you have to be coachable. And, it's so funny. Even I had a sales job one time, and like it was during the recession, and talk about being coachable. It can be very stressful. Because, but I was always told that I'm a very coachable person myself. Although, I have my own stubbornness too, like we all do, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just the idea that you want to learn, you want to grow. And the hardest thing about being coached is you have to look at your fear, your inadequacy, and push past it. And so if you have resistance, and I think the thing I learned in life is it's all about overcoming resistance. If you wouldn't need a coach if you were stellar at overcoming your own resistance, right?
That's right. Right on the money. Right on the right. Now, do you think anyone can become a coach?
I don't know. I think, well, if they have a heart for, usually the things you have a desire for and a heart for are things that you're equipped to do. So, yeah, I think, and if a person is willing to learn and work on themselves, anything's possible.
Along the same lines, in your opinion, what makes a great coach?
I think a coach is a motivator. Okay, so there's a combination, like they listen to you, they see you, and they are a motivator, an encourager, and they know how to push people. They know how to walk people past their fears. That's what I really think it all comes down to. Mm-hmm. And accountability. A good coach is someone who would follow up and summarize and all of those things. But when I think about it, people are always drawn to me, and it's your energy. It's like your energy about life too, just the fact that your heart and your energy. That's and it's awesome. Authenticity,
Yeah, for sure. What makes a great coaching session, or how do you go about creating a good coaching session for your clients?
That's a great question. I think you've got to start with it's client-centered. So, I don't come in with an agenda. Basically a person comes to you for coaching and you say to them, what are you looking for? What do you want? What are your goals? And then I think that the first thing I learned in my training program is the top 10 questions to ask, and the number one question is, well, what stops you or what blocks you from achieving this goal? Mm-hmm. I think what I learned too is creating a clearing for people. Like, let's say you've gone through a couple of weeks and they're like, here was my goal, I didn't achieve it. And then they feel kind of lousy or whatever. You're like, well, it's just a conversation. There's no shame, no guilt here. There's freedom, like giving them the access to freedom and empowering the other person to say like, well, what stopped you? What limited you? And is there some of that in your mindset? How can we overcome that? So it's just a conversation where you, in one sense, you have to get into their mindset and, poke around a little bit.
What do you do when somebody's not as open though to share, private stuff or?
Yeah. I just kind of go with people. I recognize, because I was a teacher, it's a classroom full of kids. You have a kid who's an introvert. You have someone who's so shy they don't want to share their feelings. And so coaching isn't necessarily about your feelings. It's really about what goals do you want to achieve? I just think everyone's different. It's, an individual experience. So whatever, if they've come to you for coaching, you work with them where they're at. And, what was the movie with Bill Murray? And he was, I think he had mental problems, and he was seeing a psychologist. It was like baby steps to the elevator. I was like, what about Bob? So like the baby steps, to get you had a fear of elevators or something. I don't know. The baby steps to get you to overcome what you're struggling with in life.
That's phenomenal. What are what's one technique that you like to use with people, and what type of result do you expect to get from this technique?
I think I use a lot of generating yourself. So I like to call it, how do you generate yourself? And like you can hone that down to, there was the recession, now we have the COVID-19, the quarantine, whatever, the pandemic. How do you generate yourself in a crisis? How do you generate yourself when you're physically sick, you don't feel well, and it's in your mindset. So what I like to do, it's called the shift. It's like, okay, how are you feeling right now? So tell me out loud. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm stressed out, I'm afraid, or I'm worried. I think coaching exists a lot in language with people. So you get them to express it. And sometimes when people change their language and their mindset, their whole behavior will follow. So like, if they're not having good success in their business, it starts with this statement, like, are you enough? Are you like what's going on? You have to get into their limiting beliefs, like, and what's going on? Are they afraid? Are they afraid that they're not enough? Or they're, so like, how do you generate yourself in that crisis situation? You get past the limiting beliefs, past the fears, past even the language. Like you could be saying things that is counterproductive, like, well, I think I'm going to start a business, or I'm trying to start a business. Okay, that's not powerful language, right? And so possibility thinking that, what exists for you if anything were possible. If there was no fear in the elephant in the room, if there was no fear of failure, what's possible for you?
Sometimes I think, and I think you were talking about it before. That's probably the number one thing, right? In getting in our way. It's just an emotion, right? It's the fear, it's the doubt that we're not going to be able to, perform, or we're not going to be able to pull something off or whatnot, or just, look dumb. It could be just that, but sometimes the feeling is so strong, right? That you need that shift. You need to really be able to see, the possibility and how other people have been able to do it. And just like you mentioned before, I think even before we started the interview, that people have left these trails, that success leaves clues, that type of, mindset.
Yeah.
What are a couple of books or authors that you love and would recommend anyone to read?
Sure. I like Jack Canfield. I think I started with him actually in the recession in 2007. I'm so good. Like I'll have friends who challenge me to do something, and I'm a connector. I took a personality test one time. I'm a connector. So like if I'm just sitting here by myself, I could just get in all kinds of trouble. But if a friend comes along and says, "Marianne, I challenge you too," then I'm like, "Oh yeah." All of a sudden I light up. So a friend challenged me to read The Success Principles. And I think, to be honest with you, I'd taken a sales job, a break from teaching. I lost my sales job in the recession in 2007. And I read The Success Principles. And, and I had no idea what the book was about. And this is a long book, but Jack Canfield does an amazing job. He studied like the top Olympic athletes, all these amazing people, and he just compiled, it's almost like a daily bread. You can read like little tiny chapters, and I finished the whole thing. And I kid you not, after the recession, I got my highest paying teaching job of my career. And it was right after the recession, and I'd been out of work for a while, so my resume didn't look real clean and pretty, and I transitioned out from sales back into teaching. But it was the mindset from The Success Principles. So I love Jack Canfield.
That's awesome. That is actually my favorite book. All books on self-development. I think that was probably the book that started it all for me. Aside from something else, but it wasn't necessarily self-development, even though you could say it was self-development. But when I got that book, it was just like you, life-changing boom, aha moment after aha moment. And like you said, it's so easy to read. I'll put a link down in the description for you guys to check it out. If you're interested. As a matter of fact, I've put several links to this book in many other places, all over, because I think it's so key that everybody should read this book. What is your mission, and what do you want your legacy to be, Marianne?
Oh, that's a powerful question.
I know.
My mission is just to help people overcome their fear and to live the best life possible, to transform an area of their life where they feel like it's broken or they're frustrated. And when I wrote the Freak series, it was like, okay, sleep, your dating life for women, gluten-free was my own struggle and my mindset of how, having problems and needing to change my eating. And so, I want to impact people at the highest level possible, help them to just transform their life and live a better quality of life.
Where can people get in touch with you?
Great question. I'm on Instagram. It's just Marianne Meeder, which is Marianne Meeder, Meeder on Instagram. I'm also just started a page on Facebook called Gluten Free Freak. It's not really a business page. It's more about that book. But Instagram's a great place.
Okay.
And then again, there's the blog, Real Effective Coaching, but I'm not as active on there. It's probably more on Instagram.
Any other thoughts on, getting started as a coach? Someone looking for a little bit more advice, from you, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, especially in the COVID-19, situation that some of us are still dealing with, Okay, so here in St. Louis, all of our networking events were shut down. So like I was relying on that a lot to meet and greet people. Well, so during the quarantine, I started my first online coaching program. I took my second book on dating and I made it into a video series and put it on teachable.com. And it's something, to be honest with you, I wrote that down in my goals like 2 years ago, and I didn't know how to do it. And it's not as difficult as you think. It's a little challenge with the technology, and a video camera for me setting it all up. But so for coaches right now, make some videos, because people want to see who you are. They want to know what, your personality and motivational style, and put the videos out there. But I mean, Teachable is a great platform. You can charge people for those videos. So you can actually, on online coaching, and there's free platforms, obviously YouTube and Instagram videos. But I think it's a great way to get started to reach out and connect with people, is just put yourself out there and don't hold yourself back. Because I'll be honest, it was really challenging. I think I made like 12 videos for this dating thing on Instagram, on Teachable, and it can be challenging, but it's just all in your head. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I didn't know how to, I had to call friends and be like, I had to get a podcasting microphone. First time I got the tripod, I broke the tripod. I was like, all these things can happen, in life, but you just keep moving forward,
Right, that's right. I mean, I could tell you so many stories too about all those things that, trying things over the years. And, I remember, well, I've been about to lose my computer several times, because I wanted to just smash it, against the wall, being frustrated with technology and stuff. But it's just like you said, it's not what you think. Once you're done and through, that initial learning curve, it just, gets going by itself, and anyway, but just like you said, it's just a matter of not holding yourself back and putting yourself out there. So I love that. Thank you, Marianne, for your time and your wisdom, sharing all these things with us. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
No, it was great. The pleasure was all mine. So for all of you out there, please stay safe. Don't hold yourself back, as per Marianne Meeder, and go check her stuff out. It's phenomenal. 3 books, and now she has a Teachable course there. I think it's just teachable.com, and you can probably Google her name there and find it. Everybody stay safe, and let's get out there and start changing lives one session at a time. Talk to you soon. See ya.